The Little Things. Whenever I hear The Little Things, I always think of Good Charlotte's Little Things song. I'm a huge Good Charlotte fan, so maybe that's why. But if you've never checked it out, it's a good song. But that's not what this podcast is about. This is about the little daily things that we sometimes overlook that can literally be the difference between us hitting our fitness goals and not hitting them. And what are those little things and how do we be more aware of them? All that and more, so strap in, get ready for episode 186. Let's go.
The future of fitness.
How do you gain muscle mass?
Fitness is not complicated. It's simple when you break it down.
There's so much information out there.
No fads, no diets, just plain simple habits.
You're listening to the Bones to Bulk podcast.
Hey, welcome to today's episode. My name is Brian Parody, and if this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the show. So glad to have you here. For my return listeners, thank you for coming back. It means the world to me that you continue to tune in to this podcast every week. It really does. All right, the little things in life. You know the things I'm talking about. Maybe you don't. I don't know. I'm going to go into them. So, first off, when we approach fitness, we think of it as an all or nothing approach. At least I did when I started. Maybe everybody doesn't view it that way, but viewed it as, if I don't go 110% in, then I might as well not even start. And that's not a good way to approach it because, I'm like that in a lot of things in life. I tend to be an all or nothing kind of person. So for me, I feel like if I don't go all in, then I'm failing at it. And that's not necessarily the most healthy outlook. And I've had to work on that in my own life and something I'm still working on in a lot of areas. But that's besides the point. What I'm trying to say is, we have to approach fitness as a collection of small daily habits that we have to change because we have years of bad habits, and I'm not talking like terrible habits, but, with our eating and with our exercise and with our water intake. And we have years of where we didn't focus on that. So that's what I mean by when I say bad habits that we have to undo. And because there's things that are naturally ingrained in us so much, it takes time to undo those. We can't expect to overnight just do away with all our bad habits at once and be rock solid and on it. Like, that's just unrealistic. Instead, we really have to focus on the little things. And that can come down to, maybe your meals are on point. You're following recipes, you're, measuring out portion sizes, and your meals are on point, but you're still not hitting your goals. Well, what does your snacking look like? Are you a grazer? Do you just kind of go pick at this and pick at that? And you're like, oh, it's just a couple things. And then it's a couple things an hour later. And then it's a couple things an hour later. And before you know it, you've blown your calorie intake to hell. Because I've seen that happen. I have. Or maybe it's, you grab a handful of almonds and you're like, oh, that looks like a quarter cup. And then you grab another handful of almonds, another handful of almonds. And once again, you've blown your calorie intake to hell. It can happen. It's very easy to do these things. And so that's why it's so important to pay attention to these little things because they can completely derail us without even us realizing it. Because we typically think, oh, it's the big things that throw us off. It's the big things that keep us from hitting our goals. It's the, going out to eat at McDonald's every day, that thing. I know that's going to ruin my goals. So it can be very easy to just disregard the little things because let me tell you, it's much easier to recognize that, hey, I shouldn't go have a double Whopper from Burger King. That's easy. It's a lot harder to recognize, hey, I shouldn't just go eat almonds throughout the day whenever I want. Because we think, well, almonds are a healthy food, so I'm doing the right thing. I'm eating healthier. Yes, you are. And by all means, going and eating almonds throughout the day is a million times better than eating a double Whopper from Burger King. I don't know why double Whopper popped in my head. But my point is, you still cannot hit your goals because if you're constantly grazing on almonds, which are extremely dense in calories, even though they're a healthy food, they cannot fall in line with your plan and your goal. So that's why I say you've got to really nitpick the details a little bit. And I'll be the first to say I'm not a super detailed person with some things, and then with some things, I am a super detailed person. And I think we're all a little bit like that. We have those things that when it comes to like cleaning and things to be done around the house, oh my God, I'm like extremely OCD, and so I'm super detailed. When it comes to sometimes larger things, I'm just like, oh, I'll figure out the details as I go. Let's just jump in and start making some progress with it because I'm very much all or nothing in. So when I decide to do something, I'll jump in, maybe even before I've necessarily figured out all the details. And that has its good and bad things. That I digress again. So with your small daily habits. You've got to just remember what your ultimate goal is. And you've got to constantly keep in mind, is this getting me closer towards my goal, or is this pushing me farther away from my goal? And again, we have to realize that fitness is a journey, that you can't expect yourself to just nail down everything from the start, because it's not going to happen. So, maybe you're at this stage where you've just cut out the fast food and the McDonald's and you are eating almonds instead. Well, that's awesome. And that's still forward progress. And maybe you're not ready to cut back on the amount you're consuming, but you've at least made that switch over to healthier food. That's a step forward. There's still more steps to take in the measuring out process, but you've got to recognize like, hey, I'm making forward progress. This is a step. I know that there's more steps I need to take, and I'm not quite there yet, but I'm working towards it. And that's okay to recognize too. And there's so many different little things like that throughout the day. The small decision to put, let's say, mayonnaise on your sandwich at lunch, and then to use barbecue sauce with your meat at dinner, and then to spread that butter on your toast in the morning. At the time, those all seem like very insignificant things. But when you add up all those little things throughout the day, it comes out to a lot. Believe me, a lot. So often when I work with clients, one of the things that so often gets overlooked is condiments and sauces and all that world of that, because there's a crap ton out there. You've got wing sauce and barbecue sauce and ketchup and mustard, and mustard's actually good, and mayonnaise and just all these things. And again, individually, they may seem pretty small in the grand scheme of things, but when you combine all of them throughout the day, it can easily become hundreds and hundreds of calories, which again can be the difference between you hitting your fitness goal and you failing at your fitness goal. And I don't say this to be like, you shall never enjoy food and you can't have this and blah, blah, blah. I'm not here to say that, but I'm trying to say, if you're on point with your food, but you're still not making goals, you've got to start nitpicking everything you eat. You've got to start measuring everything. You've got to start weighing everything and really take a hard look and say, okay, I know I'm doing pretty good, but where am I lacking? What am I missing? Because let me tell you, losing weight or gaining weight is truly a mathematical problem. That's all it is. You burn a certain amount of calories a day, and you have to either eat over that in order to gain weight, or you need to eat under that to lose weight. And if you're not losing or you're not gaining, it's because that mathematical equation is not where it needs to be. That's really all it boils down to. Yes, there's a lot that goes into play with that. So I'm not trying to simplify this in the sense of, oh, it's so easy. It's so easy. I'm not saying it's easy. Any fitness goal is very hard, but it is simple. There's a big difference between easy and simple. So I hope this helps today. Maybe you're in that place of you feel like you're doing the right things, but you're not seeing the progress. And maybe it's time to start looking at those little things. If you found this helpful, then I would love it if you would head on over to youtube.com/bones to bulk. Check out some of my videos on there. Please subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me. I've got a lot of great information on there. There's over 400 videos of just everything you can think of. So head on over there, check some of those out. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. With that being said, remember, no matter what walls you're facing, what things you are coming up against in life, what little things you may be struggling with that you don't really want to commit to give up yet, but you know you probably need to, you can accomplish any goal you set your mind to. You've got this.